Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a pretty cool project on the bench, and this is going to be a multi-part series. This part is part one of probably two, maybe even three episodes. So make yourself comfortable because we're diving deep into a guitar that has really lived a life. The guitar you're looking at is an Ibanez Prestige RG655, and it belongs to a good friend of mine. You could say this is another friendly repair or maybe a friendly rescue mission. This guitar was bought brand new back in 2015, maybe even late 2014, and you can clearly see that is being played a lot over the last 10 years. And honestly, that's exactly what I love about instruments like this. They tell a story. The main goal of this project is a complete stainless steel refret, but as you'll see, there are quite a few other things that need attention as well. So let's start with a general overview. I'm showing you here the output jack is loose, and I'm showing that clearly with the cable plugged in. You can actually see how much play there is, and that's a big issue. A loose jack like this can easily cause signal dropouts or even short circuits. I also test all the pots and the 5-way switch, and you can hear it immediately. They are scratchy, noisy, and definitely not healthy anymore. I removed the tremolo cavity cover and the electronics cover to get full access. Here you can see the springs inside the trem cavity and the position. Of course, a view inside the really tiny electronics cavity. And you can see the input jack is loose, and I tighten it properly using the correct wrench, making sure that it's seated the way it should be. And I quickly plug into a small amp just to confirm that the signal is stable and everything looks good. So the amp goes away again. Next step, removing the old strings. I loosen the tension at the tuners, cut the strings safely, remove them from the string bar and tie them up before throwing them away. Always to do that, old strings can be nasty. Then I loose the locking blocks on the Ibanez Edge tremolo, which is basically a modified Floyd Rose, and remove the rest of the old strings. Now we can really see what is going on. You can clearly see the fretboard is in rough shape. Deep grooves and scratches, especially from fingernails. These aren't just visual marks, you can actually feel them with the fingers. The frets themselves are completely worn out. Deep dents, especially under the higher strings, going all the way up to around the 20th fret. And technically I could level and recrown the frets easily again, but since my friend especially wanted stainless steel frets, that option is off the table, so a full refret it is. Cleaning the electronics before moving onto the neck, I take care of the scratchy electronics. I opened the pickguard, spray contact cleaner into the pots and the switch, and then work everything back and forth properly. That's important. The cleaner needs movement to do its job. And of course, it doesn't just clean, it also lubricates the components. So once everything is closed up again, I test it one more time. And after testing the electronics, I have to fix the scratch plate again. And of course, the covers for the electronics cavity and the tram cavity. And I need some cleanup because of the contact cleaner. As there are no strings on the guitar, so I grab a screwdriver and tap the pickups. Yeah, and now the tap test and everything works perfect. And the input jack is rock solid now. Okay, so this part is done, and the jack is, as I've stated, rock solid now, so this part is done. Let's move to the neck. It's time to remove it because this is really the main character of today's episode. This is where it becomes clear that this project won't fit into a single video. Today we fixed the electronics and started the refret process. And yeah, you can see all the scratches and chips, but this needs to be addressed in a later episode. And yeah. Before touching the fretboard, the neck has to be perfectly straight, absolutely dead straight. To remove the old frets, I have to use a soldering iron, and yeah, the dead neck strake is very important because everything that comes after makes no sense if the neck is not really, perfectly straight. To remove the old frets, I have to warm them up with a soldering iron, and this part I have heavily sped up in the video for a good reason, because it took about 2 minutes to pull one fret. Even the first fret, I have video edited it to speed it up, because I think nobody wants to watch 30 minutes or more just heating up the frets and pulling them. So here a time lapse for you. And yeah, I also used a small support tool on a few frets to protect the fretboard edges from tear out. I only needed it on 2 frets, so yeah, it worked really beautifully, as you will see in the end. Only very few chip outs, but nothing major here, and no sawdust and super glue was needed to fill up any tear outs or splitters after removing the old frets. Yeah, that's exactly what you want if you're doing a refret like this, and yeah, it works really beautiful. So let's take a look. Here's the fretboard after all frets are removed, and you can clearly see the wear from 10 years of playing, but structurally it looks great. I've refretted a lot of necks in my life, and this one turned out really nice and clean, and it's really good at this stage. So the next step is leveling the fretboard and of course maintaining the radius, and this process also took about half an hour or maybe 45 minutes. So I'm time-lapsing this part. The fretboard has a 20-inch radius, no compound, and I've measured it before, and it's important to maintain the exact shape because I don't have a 20-inch radius sanding beam, so I work it controlled by sanding equal passes, counting the strokes and making sure everything stays symmetrical. That's really, really important. And occasionally I also use a 16-inch radius block, but just to clean up the outer edges. Since the board is flatter than that, nothing happens in the middle anyway, so everything's fine. And yeah, this method works very well if you know what you're doing. And now I have to clean the fret slots and deepen them. I start with a smaller fret saw, then go to the final depth with a larger one. I don't use the depth stop after many years of doing this. It's something you just feel. And after that, I go through each slot with a triangular file to slightly chamfer the edges. That helps prevent tear-outs in the future refrets. And yeah, it also seated the new frets better. And finally, I sand everything with a 240 and 500 grit until the board is really smooth and clean. Okay, now installing the stainless steel frets. Here I'm using Jazzcar Jumbo stainless steel. And now it comes to the fun part. I have installed a lot of stainless steel frets, but I've worked with other brands before, from Symptoms or Fender and even other brands, but these Jazzcar frets, I tell you, are on another level. This material feels significantly harder than anything I have worked before. You noticed it immediately while pre-bending and hammering, and especially when pressing them in. You can see I'm using a professional fret press with a fractal press insert. That's the little brass thing you can see in the middle. And that's extremely important with this stainless steel because it doesn't flex easily like nickel silver. And the frets feed beautifully, but man, this is tough. This is really hard stuff. And yeah, another challenge. And it took me about, I think, 30 minutes to press them all in. Now cutting and filing the fret ends. Cutting the fret ends is really a workout in this case. I'm using a very high quality fret cutter, and I still need both hands to get through this material. And the cut-offs fly through the air like razor blades. That's why I'm wearing safety glasses, and I strongly recommend doing the same. And this part is sped up again. Just cutting the fret ends took me about 15 minutes in real time. You can see it's really hard work. As I've mentioned, good workout. Yeah, but after that, I will use a little file to straighten the fret ends, and yeah, on this way, the file just grabs, and there was one fret still a little bit too long, and I've decided to shorten it again with the fret nippers. And after that, I usually like to do it freehand just to have a better control over the things. And usually I don't clamp the neck because, as I've mentioned, I like to have the full control, but with stainless steel being this hard, I had no choice, and the neck goes into the vise. I'll file everything flush and then use a dedicated beveling file for the edges. And overall, this process took easily an hour or more to get it right. You can see the fret ends are really nice now, but they're still not finished at this point, because each single fret gets rounded by hand. That's really crucial for a good playability. Otherwise, you will feel every fret when sliding up and down the neck. So I always do this before leveling the frets. The frets are seated very well, so I don't expect much leveling work later, but we will see in the next episode. Yeah, that's where we are going to stop for today. I will also make a time lapse dressing all the fret ends with a fret end dressing file. This is really a tedious process. And yeah, you have to do it the right way and very careful to have a really smooth feeling. In the next part, we will level and crown the frets and continue with the restoration of this guitar. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a like and a subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I'm planning to release it the next week. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next episode.